The object of the game is to get your ball into the hole in as few strokes as possible. Golf is one of the older sports in the world, and in this game, a golfer uses a selection of clubs, which are these things here, to hit a ball into a hole which is denoted by a flag. A typical hole looks like this, with different terrain and obstacles to make it challenging to play. To start, a golfer must have the correct equipment. Each player must use golf balls that they can identify as their own, and usually they mark the ball with a pen or a marker. A golfer is allowed no more than 14 clubs in his bag. If they are found with more than 14, a 2-stroke penalty is added to the first hole. The game starts at the first hole. A player will start by hitting their golf ball within 2 club lengths behind the markers. The aim of this first shot is to hit the ball as close to the hole as possible. Once they have completed their shot, it's their opponent's turn to do the same. In golf, it's customary for the person who is furthest from the hole to make the next shot. Players alternate shots until both players have put their balls into the hole. The amount of strokes it took to sink the ball is recorded, and they move on to the next hole.
At the beginning of each hole, the drive is used to cover the most distance, trying to get as close to the hole as possible, while setting yourself up for the remainder of the hole. The accuracy of the drive is just as important as the distance, because the ball placement will affect the next strokes to come. But for our project, we'll be looking at the distance aspect of the drive. The drive is heavily affected by the head speed of the club when it comes in contact with the golf ball, and the angle at which the ball and the club meet. A higher head speed will result in a greater distance and hitting the ball at a golfer's ideal angle of 16 degrees, which differs from the ideal projectile angle of 45 degrees, all because it accommodates for the lift and drag of the dimpled golf ball. In this video, we are looking at Justin Thomas, a PGA pro, known for his drive, swinging his club at a speed of 117.37 miles per hour, generating a distance of 302.2 yards.
In our experiment, Matt, John, Brennan, and Coach Burt, the women's golf coach, hit 5 drives each through the golf simulator. The club head speed was produced through tracker as well as the golf simulator itself. The simulator also provided the launch angle and the distance for each drive.
Using tracker's data, we found the velocity of the swinger's club right before contact with the golf ball. Using the tee height in each video to calibrate tracker, we found that Brendan hits the ball at 44.01 meters per second, which converted to 98 miles per hour, greater than the simulator by 1.02%. John hit the ball at 41.48 meters per second, or 92.76 miles per hour, larger than the simulator by 1.33%. Matthew, on the other hand, seemed to have significant error, as tracker said he swung the ball at 94.6 miles per hour, or 42.3 meters per second, which was 18% greater than the simulator, as it said he swung at 79 miles per hour. Coach Burt swung consistently at 40.39 meters per second, or 90.32 miles per hour, only greater than the simulator by 1.55%.
We compared our club head speed to Coach Burt's, and the data clearly indicated that our club speed would not overcome our poor technique. All 3 of us had a faster club speed than Coach Burt, yet she was able to outdrive us as well as hit the ball more accurately. That being said, we decided to compare her club speed and average drive distance to Justin Thomas, the pro golfer. The loft of the driver we used was 10.5 degrees, which is consistent with most drivers. The loft contributes to most of the ball's projectile angle. Therefore, the golfer should keep the head of the driver almost parallel to the ground upon impact with the ball. When a golfer consistently makes impact with the ball in the center of his club at the proper angle, the only factor that determines the distance of the drive is the head speed. We compared Coach Bird's club speed to the pro Justin Thomas. His club speed was almost 30 miles per hour faster than Coach Bird's, which allowed him to drive the ball almost 100 yards further on average.
To find the velocity of the ball off the tee, we needed to apply oblique impact solving techniques. From Coach Bert's data found from Tracker, the club's initial velocity was broken down into component form, accommodating for the loft of the driver. Using trigonometry, if the club is perpendicular to the ground, the angle at which the golf ball will leave the tee is equivalent to the loft of the club. From there, we used conservation of momentum in the x direction, generating a two-variable equation involving the final velocity of the club and the ball after impact. Then, an equation derived from the coefficient of restitution is used to find an equation for the velocity of the ball in terms of the final velocity of the club. The coefficient for golf is 0.83 according to liveabout.com. From there, solving the final club speed in the x direction, the final speed was 30.22 meters per second. Hence, the final x direction for the golf ball was then calculated to be 62.08 meters per second. This same process was repeated to yield a y component for the golf ball, producing a velocity of 17.86 meters per second. These values were then used for the projectile motion calculation.
From Coach Bert's data, 62.08 meter per second of horizontal velocity and 17.86 meter per second of vertical velocity are found. In order to calculate her ball travel distance, we use impact equations. The initial horizontal distance is 0 meter. The initial vertical distance from teeing is 0.038 meter. The final vertical distance is 0 meter. And the ideal angle is 16 degrees between the club and the ball. Using the vertical projectile equations and quadratic equations, we derive the time that is 3.6433 seconds. This was plugged in horizontal projectile equations in order to calculate the final distance traveled in horizontal, which we get 247.34 yards. In pro golf, the ideal horizontal distance without considering air resistance and any environmental factors is 302.2 yards. So the percent distance between Coach Bert's final distance and pro golfer's final distance is 19.97%.
Finally, we calculated Brennan's, John's, and Matt's data in a situation where they all hit perfectly in a vacuum. From this data, we nearly would be qualified to compete at lower level tournaments, all hitting within a 7% range from Justin Thomas, who still proved to be the victor.
In golf, as in all sports, injuries are a common occurrence and can plague a golfer's career if not treated properly. Due to the inherently relaxed nature of the game, contact injuries such as concussions are nearly unheard of. Instead, injuries to the lower back, knee, and other joints are far more prevalent. Specifically relating to biomechanics, the most common and career-threatening of the injuries is to the lower back. The rotational stress caused by the swing can place considerable pressure on the spine and muscles. Combine this with the fact that professional golfers spend hours a day in a bent-over stance repeating the same motion, it is no wonder that playing golf can cause minor strains to the back that can easily lead to more severe injuries. In order to reduce these harmful effects, it is helpful to add back strengthening exercises as well as lots of stretching.
Mini tour days, I had to withdraw from a few tournaments because I sliced my finger open on a Ninja blender, and it's kind of a freak accident, opening up a wedding present and sliced my thumb open. And it was such a small cut, about this much, but took me down for about a month.
I tweaked some stuff playing basketball a couple weeks ago and thought I maybe had to pull out, just doing some stupid stuff off the course. But fortunately, the body healed up quickly and I was able to get out there and play.
I'd won Capella 2 years in a row and I was turning up and I was playing really, really well. And I was just messing around in the ocean, and that reef is very, very sharp. A lot of guys, I'd cut my feet 2 or 3 times in Maui at that tournament, but your feet, you just put a Band-Aid on it or they actually put super glue in it sometimes, because it like seals it properly without stitches. And played and it was fine. And half the field's walking around with little scratches on their feet because of the way the beach is. But I somehow managed to nail my hand on it, and it was right. It was probably one of the only spots right where that point would hit the club, and I just couldn't hit it, so I had to pull out. So it was pretty disappointing in my favourite tournament.
The only other injuries we see in golf are self-inflicted. So please, play safe and enjoy.
You just hit him in the face.
No, I did not. I did not hit him in the face.